You're watching BCTV, Branford's community access station.
This is BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. The following program is brought to you through the support of the Town of Branford.
Did we didn't agree on it. Okay. Sorry, it's going to be
All right, we're going to get started tonight. Town of Branford Board of Finance budget hearings for fiscal 2019, which begins on July 1st, 2018. Tonight, we will continue our public hearings with regards to the individual departments. Before we get started, I just wanted to run through the total request for this upcoming fiscal year is $113,034,993 with anticipated revenues of $12.8 million with a net to be raised from taxation of $100,223,000, representing a 2.2% increase in amount of taxes to be raised. That equates, based on an estimated grand list of $3.5 billion, of a mill rate of 28.88 or 0.4 points increase from a 28.47, which represents a 1.4% increase in the mill rate. We will have our hearings tonight, and then we will also finalize the budget presentations on Monday the 19th. The Board of Finance will conduct its budget workshop on the 26th, at which time it will recommend the budget to the RTM.
Joe, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. For those who don't know who I am, Joe Mooney, Board of Finance Chair. And with that, we'll get started on page 20 with the probate court.
Board members, good evening. My name is Frank Forgione. I'm the probate judge for the town of Branford and North Branford. And the budget that we've presented for you is $12,550, which is the same amount as the budget last year. Basically, what we did is we reduced the microfilming expense by $500, but office supplies, copier, repair, maintenance went up a little bit. So we basically redirected certain funds into areas where the expenses seem to be increasing and maintained a zero budget increase.
Okay. Questions from the probate judge? Charlie?
Nice job.
Thank you.
Questions from RTM members or the general public? All set, Frank. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank.
Thank you.
Next is legal services. We have the town council here.
No, there's,
Jamie?
I'll take that one. Town attorney was unable to attend tonight.
That's page 18.
Yep, page 18. So you will see we increased the counsel and legal advice line. There's an increase of about $35,000 in that line. However, to offset that increase, we reduced tax appeals by $40,000 and expenses and claims with an increase of $5,750. Under counsel and legal advice, we increased that this year. As you know, this board knows, that line item is covers the area of just reviewing contracts, providing legal advice to the various departments, and also there's a lot of stuff that's event driven. You may be aware of some things that you see in the media, some decisions and which are being appealed. Therefore, we thought it was prudent to increase that line item this year. as we're finishing up this fiscal year, we will be settling a number of tax appeals prior to the end of this fiscal year. Therefore, we felt comfortable in reducing that amount by the $40,000. So overall, it's a 0.2% increase, a change of $750.
So Jamie, just for clarification, that line item of counsel and legal advice goes to the town council as well as attorneys and other consultants that he hires through that account?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Questions from Jamie on the legal budget? Questions from the RTM members or general public? Okay, thank you. Next is tax collector, page 16. Welcome, Roberta.
Hello, how are you?
This is your first time in front of our board,
Yes,
so
it
welcome.
is. Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you. Looking over this year's budget with the help, thank you so much from Catherine and Jim with helping me get this together for this year. Overall increase is just under $12,000, which really seems to all be absorbed mostly in salaries. So everything else pretty much remained basically the same. I will say that this is, for this budget, we do not have to purchase stickers because stickers were in last year's budget.
For sale in this beginning April 1st.
Right.
Right.
One thing I did learn, I've lived in this town most of my life, and I never realized the passion related to stickers. So that is not, that amount is not included, of course. And we did have just some increases on page 16-2 with the certification classes. We normally had just one attendee. We have two attendees, excuse me, for our certification classes this time around. So that made the classes increase and, of course, the mileage increase for getting to and from those classes. But other than that, everything stayed pretty much the same.
Okay, questions from Roberta in regards to her budget? Charlie?
Hey, Roberta, what was the reason for eliminating the resident stickers this year?
Because they are only purchased every other year,
Oh,
so we just,
gotcha. All
Yeah.
right, thank you.
no problem.
And Bob?
Yeah, just looking at the tax refund, do we know where we are year-to-date with that?
I did not get that figure. I'm going to have to reach out to Catherine on that one.
You got that, Catherine?
To date, we have paid out $61,310.
Thank you.
So do we anticipate,
There are a lot of appeals still outstanding. I believe that they're going to try to get settled before June 30th. I'm sure Barbara will talk about that during her presentation.
okay, thank you.
Other questions from Roberta? Just kind of like, not a trick question, but right now, when we put our budget together, we are estimating a 98.35 collection rate. You're comfortable with that?
I am. I would say the big rush for folks to pay their taxes ahead of the new year
You're right.
brought a lot in, so
Yeah.
yeah.
So you're
It's a
in
little
good
slow
shape.
now because it's that time of year, but I anticipate we
Right.
should be able to do it.
And you'll be coming before us with your suspense list
Yes, I will.
in
Catherine and I will
April
do
or
that.
sometime? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, questions from the RTM members or general?
Questions on the stickers.
Yep,
The fact
Brian?
is, the stickers, I noticed that, I heard what she said, the tax collector, but is that gonna cause an issue with this from a police standpoint with the people coming into the park now? Because the stickers should expire, they'll say March 2018 they expire. It's the current stickers on the cars that are coming in expire 2018, it says it's on the sticker.
Yes,
So now what do we do, let these people in with the same sticker from last year or whatever it is?
No, sir. The last year's budget bought the stickers that are being sold now.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yes, they're only purchased every other
All
year.
right, so they still need new stickers?
Yes, sir.
They'll be on sale.
They are right now.
As of now, so
Yes.
you can buy your sticker now.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, and also I know that they're a little lenient, if you see a person coming in once, they got an old sticker, then I leave that up to the first selectman to delegate that authority or whatever. but,
Well, that's all right, we'll charge an extra $5 fee to let them in, John.
all right. Charlie?
Mr. Roberta, do you know how many people or how many income you had for people who paid their 2018 taxes in 2017?
Wouldn't take them.
We didn't let them.
Okay, you wouldn't accept them?
No, sir.
Okay.
What they accepted, what was due in January.
Yes, we
They
accepted
accepted
anything for
some.
January 1st.
Okay,
But there were,
not the second half.
no, there were
Okay.
so many people that tried to, well,
Okay.
Mr. Cosgrove knows, because I think of 3 or 4 of them went and knocked on his door. So it was it was a kind of a little baptism by fire in that situation, with everyone, rushing in to pay them early, which, when does that ever happen? But, no, we didn't accept anything at all.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions from the tax collector? Not, thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Have a good night.
thank you too. Next is elderly services, page 42. Dagmar, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Okay, good.
And I'm happy to say, for the first time in a long time, I'm coming before you with a decrease in my operating budget of about 9%. And that's really because we'll be speccing out a new bus and replacing one of our buses, so I was able to reduce our repair and maintenance. And also in our office supplies, we're doing more digital communications and put our newsletter out as a 2-month issue, so it reduced our paper cost. So I was able to come up with some savings there. And everything else is the same, and salaries, of course, increase per contracts.
Okay. Questions from Dagmar? So you'll be buying a new bus this
Yep.
year?
This year, we'll be taking out the sinking fund and replacing one of the 3 buses, and we're on a cycle to do that, and another one next year.
And your endowment fund is in good shape? It looks like
Yes, it's doing, Mr. Finch, Jim is doing a great job investing money, and our interest rates, we're collecting a lot more interest than we have in previous years.
Okay,
So we're doing well.
that's great. Charlie, you got a question?
Hey, the 3.1% increase in the wages, is that because of is that negotiated wages?
There's no 3.1, it's 2.5 that was negotiated.
Well, I thought I saw regular wages and salaries,
Oh.
3.1%.
Well, Charlie, it's
Yeah.
a double jump. So there was no increase in last year's budget. For this year's increase, the contract was just approved by the RTM, so it's a double bump. It's
Okay.
2.5 for this year, 2.5 for next year.
Okay.
It nets.
All right.
I think Catherine's here.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Catherine. I was going for the 2.5, but there we go.
Bob?
Yeah, just on the drug testing, I know we do a lot of that. Do we use the same company for that, or do you use a?
We switched last year. Our vendor now we go through CCM, has a pool that we participate in, and I like it because A, it's a little more local, the testing sites, and also they only charge us $100 per person, no matter how many times they get called in the random pool. So,
And it's the same as the police and fire?
I'm not sure who the police and fire use. I know I use CCM. I don't know if they're in the pool with CCM or not.
For the
Consortium, do they use the CCM for police and fire? I don't know.
No, they do not. They, actually, the fire and, they don't.
They use a different one.
And for their volunteers and pre-hires, they use
Yeah.
urgent care.
Urgent care.
On Route 8.
And I was just wondering if there was a way to get a better price collectively using the same vendor.
We're actually looking at some other firms. There was a local. So we're actually in the process of doing that now.
Thanks.
Thanks, Bob. Other questions from Dagmar? Questions from the RTM members or general public with regards to the elderly services budget? All set?
Thank you so much.
Thanks, thanks.
Have a good night.
Okay. Is there anything on capital?
Yeah, on our
I'm sorry.
sinking fund, that remains, we're asking for $35,000 again to maintain that sinking fund. And there's a copy of the fund in your package.
Okay.
42.4.
And the
44,
schedule.
Okay, why did I miss that? Okay, I
So
see.
that's to maintain the 3 medical cars and the 3.
And the 3 buses. Yep,
That's at 35,000, right?
correct. You should have the full schedule in there.
Yeah, I do. Yep.
That
Okay,
proposes out.
just didn't jump on it. Questions on the capital, Charlie?
Now, this is on 42.5. Why do we charge for the evening meeting fees?
We do that because we have the night security that we have on board.
Oh, okay,
So
all
we put that money goes back into the general fund.
Gotcha.
Okay, any questions on the capital or operating side? Okay, you're all set.
Okay.
Thanks, Dave. Next is Board of Assessment Appeals, page 15. Barbara, how are you?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm representing the Board of Assessment Appeals. They're meeting tonight. They have appeals tonight, so. The only increase in their budget is the 2% for the clerks and for the members of the board. That's it. Everything else is the same.
Total request $13,349. Questions on this budget? Questions from RTM members, our public, general public? I think we're all set on that, Barbara. You want to go to your budget,
Yep.
page 14? Total request $427,404, increase of 6,908, which is mostly personnel costs.
Yeah, I don't go up too much, but keep in mind that this is the year prior to a reval. So we'll be starting a revaluation this March, the end of this March, and it's a full physical. But the increases I have basically in salary are the contracts that have been settled up to this point under the salaries. The overtime, I did increase the overtime because we'll be running three parallel, we'll be running the 2019, the 2018 grand list, and a parallel to the 2019 in case it doesn't go in, and that's going to be starting this March. So I increased the hours for my staff up to 40. For, I have, let's see what I have here. I believe they had, I wrote the page with me.
Yeah, I think we're good with that.
Yes. Last year, it was up to 40 hours for a total of 10 weeks. This time, I put one of them up to 12 weeks and another staff member from 6 to up to 8 weeks. Under regular, up to 40 hours. And then overtime, which is over 40 hours, I increased somebody from 6 weeks up to 8 weeks, and a data collector from 2 weeks up to 4 weeks. Only because we're going into the reval. That's why those are increased.
Right.
So that would be the answer for the raise and the overtime. The part-time help increase is just the 2%. Education incentive went down because they only have one person sitting for another exam this fall. If they pass, then we have an education incentive. The only other thing really that went up, leadership and conferences. Again, I'm the president of the New Haven County, so I'm attending more conferences than usual for myself and other staff members. Subscriptions went up. Usually they stay about the same, but my trailer truck book and my blue truck book is no longer being printed, so I had to go online to get it, and the online course was more money. Generally, those two subscriptions were $70 a year. The online course is now $200 and some odd, and that's renewable every year. They won't give me a regular book. I have to go online. And office supplies I increased because of the reval. And that's it.
Okay, questions on the operating budget? From Barbara? Charlie?
This is just kind of a curious question, but the difference between an associate assessor and assistant assessor, is that an educational background, the difference?
Well, there's a different wage. It's in
Yeah, I
the
know
union
that.
contract, yeah.
But do they get,
Yes.
let's say when they go through some degree or something, do they get an associate's degree?
No,
And an
no.
assistant degree? No.
No. Those are just the positions that were in the union contract, and the person who's qualified, if the person was hired when that position came up, that would be their title. If they get a certification, they don't, it's not a step contract where they would move to another step. It's just a
I see,
basic
okay.
wage.
And,
And actually, if I have a data collector and he gets 3 certifications because he was hired as a data collector, he doesn't get any more for that, except for the education incentive, that's it.
Question on personal property audits. Did you get a good return on investment there?
Yes, generally we do. However, for some reason, everybody seems they want to appeal it because they don't want to pay what's on their IRS filing. We have 3 people doing appeals, 3 companies doing appeals tonight. And they, fortunately, those appeals are 3-year appeals because we audit for 3 years. But the investment is well worth it. We do receive a lot of money from those audits.
Okay.
Yes.
You tie it back.
And generally, people, if their books match, and many of them do. I
Right.
mean, we don't change anything. It's a 0 increase or a 0 decrease. If their books match, or even if we owe them, if they have over-reported,
Right.
we make the adjustment. So, we try to be fair and equitable to everybody. Right.
Okay, thanks.
And many times I have to do the inspection listings along with the audits. It's amazing how many accountants, I learned a lot about accountants doing the audits because a lot of times they do things for their taxpayers, which are best for the IRS. But when you have your IRS audit and the IRS is supposed to match, according to the statute, what you're filing on the declaration, we pick up a lot of things. Yeah. And unfortunately, sometimes the taxpayers get a little upset. But
Right. Thanks. Victor?
Barbara, when does the physical reval start?
it's going to start this March, the end of this March, beginning April 1st.
Oh.
Matter of fact, we're just signing our contract now. I sent a copy to Jamie, and I think he approved it. It's being sent to Vision for them to sign. And in
Ready
order
for
for them to start, the contract has to be signed. So they want to start by April 1st.
And be ready by October 1 or something?
October 1 of 2019.
19,
But it's a full physical, so that means it's a full inspection of all properties.
I see. Okay, thanks.
Okay, no questions on the operating. We'll move to the capital $75,000 request, which is for the revaluation.
Right, I worked with Jim on that. Jim and
Yep.
I have made some adjustments down. We got, our contract is being signed, so we already have the money in the sinking fund for that. And what's left over, we're working for 2024, believe it or not. And then 2029 would be the next physical.
Okay.
So,
Questions on this? Questions from the RTM members or general public with regards to this budget, either operating or capital? Frank?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One question, Ms. Neal. As far as the cost of the reval, how much is in the sinking fund?
at the current time, I think it's over $1 million, isn't it?
$1,074,000, approximately.
And so, I mean, do you think that, do you feel that that's going to cover the cost of it?
Of this reval?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
What's going to be the cost of that? Do you have any idea?
Well, right, the contract right now, I believe it's $535,000, but that does not include any of the GIS work that we'll be doing. That would be in addition to that, or any appraisal work. But the contract with Vision, because we got some reductions for some in-house work we're going to be doing, so it's down to $535 right now.
That's great. Thank you, Ms. Neal.
You're welcome.
Okay, other questions? All set, Barb, thank you.
Okay, I just want, you mentioned the court cases. Did you
Okay.
want me to speak to those?
Sure.
We talked with Jamie and Jim, we're trying to settle as many as we can that are outstanding. Of course, that doesn't include any that would be coming forward from the appeals tonight. But some of the major ones are still outstanding, but we're going to try to settle them before July 1, hopefully.
These are in court?
Yes, they're in court now.
So what's the process? Is it a trial in front of the judge, if you
Well,
don't
if
settle?
it's a pretrial, and then we've been trying not to go to trial because it's expensive to go to trial, and unfortunately, a lot of the judges don't. If you go to New Haven, you don't necessarily get a judge that's familiar with real estate or personal property, so it's very difficult. because it's a matter of the draw who you get for a judge. It's just, you just can't pick who you
It
have.
doesn't go before the tax court, it goes before just a regular superior court.
Right. So, I mean, unless I go to New Britain with Judge Levine, which I have several times, I mean, he doesn't fool around. He wants things done a certain way.
Right.
One particular party, I've been up there 3 times, and the other side didn't show. So finally, I think we've got a settlement on it. He finally was pushed to the corner, and we've got a settlement coming up on that one. So, I mean, we try to do our best, but you're depending on the other person also doing their best.
Okay.
Okay?
Any other questions? All right, thanks, Barb. Next is Human Services, page 69, roll call. And that includes a operating transfer in of $1,049,000, which is an increase of $37,775 from prior year, from this current fiscal year. Peter, welcome.
Good evening, Board. One change in my budget as a request for a case management position, which was started in January of 2019. Over the past years, we've seen a steady increase in social services needs, which has had an impact on our basic needs account. So we were reviewing the request for assistance. We noticed that we got a lot of repeat callers with the same issues. So we decided that we needed to review certain requests to truly determine if there is a need here. So we were able to bring in a contracted case manager on a part-time basis. The purpose was to vet the certain social service requests. We get a lot of requests for emergency housing and utility and rental assistance. And what this person has done, goes out there and vets the requests. In the past 2 months, we've seen a decline in the requests because she comes up with an alternative for them to use instead of calling us for the cash assistance. This case manager also helps with the clinical staff because we have a lot of no-shows and cancellations. And what she'll do, she'll go out, knock on the door, find out what's going on, to bring them back into the services so we can provide the clinical services and, of course, bill them. Also, to stay within our parameters, I cut back on some of our professional services and on the part-time clinical staff. So we say $15,000 with the office person and about $78,000 on the professional services.
So the new position, that's the 25,000?
For, starting in January of 2019 for half a year.
Half a year.
Half a year.
Okay. Okay, I got you. So that's in your, that is in your, that's part of the 55,000 increase.
Right, because that also included the 2.5%.
Right.
And also, as Catherine said before, the union contract that was signed.
Right.
So it came in at 5% plus.
So what
Right.
I've looked at, just for the board members, page 84 has the breakdown of the positions, the clinicians and et cetera. But that's the total of the 55,000 that ties back to page 69. All right. Okay. So that where you see the new position, it's in there for half a year. Okay. And then you reduced your other purchases, services.
Which is our professional services, which is our medical people.
Right.
So I put some cuts in there, and one of our biggest expenses is $30,000 to Yale Child Study Center. So I contacted them this year and requested that, because we have 2 fellows that come in. So they come in, they learn to provide in a community setting. It's a great training opportunity for them, but it costs us $30,000. So I asked them if they would waive the $30,000 and still bring in the fellows. I don't have a problem having them in there.
They should pay us.
For free, it'd be great. Well, of
training.
course. Yale doesn't work like that, though. So they came back and negotiated, okay, you can have the 2 fellows, but for $15,000. I said, okay, we'll do it this year and see what happens. But they made it clear to us, well, next year we're going to really have to take a look at this. I kind of feel the same way. I'm paying Yale to have people come in and learn from our clients, and we supervise them, and we do the support services for them, but I have to pay them for that. So it doesn't make sense, but that's how it's been. I guess it's how Yale operates for so many years. So I cut that in half for this year.
Right, I see that. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So,
And I also cut back on our adult psychiatrists by 6 hours. Actually, I cut her in half. And I have an APRN, which is a little bit cheaper than a doc, and I increased her hours a couple hours. So I'm going to get the same type of service for less money. See, my delivery of the services and the type of services that we're going to be providing is not affected by these cuts.
okay, that's good. So you're refining that. Again, the total expenditure here is $1,518,432,000, reduction of $31,225 in expenditures, even though the town's share is going up by $37,000. That's because the state grants as well as the fees are going down.
Well, what happened, we were getting $60,000 from the state. BH Care is the funnel for us. And because of the state crisis, that was eliminated. We were also getting money from our electronic health records. We were getting money, and we were supposed to get money over the next 4 years as a reimbursement, which would be about $8,000 per doc. And we were using 3 docs in figuring out the reimbursement. But what they did is that they changed the parameters of what's called meaningful use. And they decided that for us to get that, there are 10 areas that we'd have to at least try to meet. We were only able to meet 3. And I think they kind of loaded it up a little bit. It's hard for a lot of agencies to meet the needs that they put in there. So with that, we weren't able to go and look for or try to get the reimbursements.
This is state,
It goes through Medicaid.
so it's DSS?
DSS. That's how we have to follow what CMS wants, but the reimbursement was coming through Medicaid.
Got it.
So we weren't able to. If we couldn't meet the meaningful use parameters, then there's no way that we could meet that. We also got a cut in the State Department of Education because we got a YSB grants, and they cut us on that there again because of the state budget crisis. So we took a few hits on for the different grants that were coming in.
Right. Okay, questions? Lorraine?
There's a lot of letters and a lot of numbers here. But I don't know what that department even does. So would you take a minute or two?
Which department is that?
Whatever we're looking at here. What's the purpose?
The counseling.
Oh, the counseling center. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, this
Okay.
counseling center.
The counseling center.
Right.
What it's human services is really what
What we're called.
the newer title.
Okay.
Yeah. So we do the social services for the town and also the clinical services for the town.
Thank you.
Yeah, Charlie?
There's 2 fellows from Yale that you negotiated down to 15. What kind of leverage does Yale have on our town, right, to kind of encourage you to accept these 2 fellows and we pay for them?
Well, this has been going on for a while, Charlie, and before I got there.
I know, but I mean, what's the leverage? What if we said, hey, forget it, we don't want them?
Well, I think we'll probably get to that point because what they do is that they do see a lot of the child cases that we have. What we were trying to, and what we have figured over the course of the year, this past year, how much money they were generating for us. And it wasn't much to cover the costs of what we were paying. but they do provide that extra service in providing the medication therapy for the kids that come in here. So what we have to look at next year is to absorbing that ourselves. And because I don't think Yale is going to change next year. I think they're not going to give us the fellows for free. And I really don't think we should pay for having 2 fellows come in to learn from us. But Yale, my understanding, they do that not just with us, with any other place that they send the Yale Child Study Fellows in, that the agency pays them for the service.
So it's almost like a winding down to some extent.
Well, I think that's what we're going to be looking at, yeah, because we're going to have to absorb that, and we can by looking at more efficiencies. And even if I increase, we've got 2 child docs that we have now. If I increase them a couple hours, we should be able to absorb the kids that we see, the patients that we see, and it's going to cost us less money.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, other questions?
I have another question.
Sure.
Does every school have this category of a classroom, and it's the situation where they need to have this kind of support from Yale?
I think the school-based health clinic is part of Yale, my understanding, and they operate in at least 3 schools here.
Well, I just wondered if there's a way to have the other schools get together and do a training course in one of the schools or something.
Well, this is not training. What this is actually, the fellows are at the next step for them to become MDs. So what Yale Child Study does is, and they do it in New Haven and a lot of other surrounding communities, is that they have their fellows being placed in the community. It's a training for them. Mm-hmm. And it's a good training because we have a good diversity of clients that they see. And I guess the question is, do we need to continue that next year? I mean, I'm willing to have them come in there without a problem, as long as that doesn't cost me money.
Listen, do we put them on your payroll?
No.
No.
Yale pays them.
It's a lump sum fee?
We pay Yale and they pay them.
They're non-personnel costs.
Right.
All right, any other questions on this particular issue or the budget, operating budget? Questions from the RTM members or general public? Ma'am, if you could come up, there's a microphone that you can utilize. Or they could pass it back to you, or. Why don't you come up to this chair here?
I don't know if I don't know all of you, but I'm Robin Comey and I'm on the RTM. I represent District 3. I sent you an email.
How are you?
So, Peter, is this where you want me?
That's fine. That's fine.
So you mentioned that the Yale Study Center. How many kids do they treat? Do you think?
I don't know off the top of my head how many kids they treat now.
What sort of age groups are you still talking about?
We're talking about maybe 5 to early teens, maybe 13, 14.
Right. So you mentioned that the clinical staff that you cut a clinical position in half. Is that what you said?
Right.
And that was not a youth?
No, that's not youth. No.
So the only clinicians that are seeing children in the program are the Yale Fellows?
No. We have 2 child psychiatrists that work for us or are contracted with us. Okay? And they haven't been cut. One of them actually increased his hours by 2 more hours. So the only thing I'm cutting, well, not for this year, but for next year we have to take a look at, will be the 2 fellows that will be coming in. Now, the 2 fellows that come in, we supervise them. So I have one of my child psychiatrists supervises the two fellows. But also, it costs us for our EHR, it costs us, which is another expense because we have to do all the prescriptions electronically. And the state mandated that this year we have to do all the controlled drugs electronically, and that costs more money than the regular meds. And so we have to put them into our system. So it does cost us to keep the 2 fellows there besides the fee that we have to give Yale.
But I'm sure that you feel that serving the children is critical to what we're providing for the families here in
Well, absolutely.
Branford, and that we won't cut.
Oh, no, absolutely.
We're-
None of
we're
this
going
none of this is going to have any effect on the delivery of what we do.
Right.
So what it's going to make us do is kind of tighten things up. You know, probably the biggest problem we have are people, the no-shows. So we do call ahead of time to remind people to come for their appointments. So I think we have to kick that up a few notches. It should not have any effect on the service that we're going to give.
Do you,
And that's
do you
probably
turn
what
away? Do you turn away a lot of young children, or do you refer them out to, say, Guilford or Family Services or to Clifford Beers?
No, we don't turn anybody away unless there is some issues there that they need a higher level of care that we can't provide, and then we make sure that they'll get referred to the appropriate agencies. But we don't normally turn anybody away.
And also, I'm not familiar with the model. Are you only taking folks in a certain income level, or are you taking anyone that walks through the door?
Anybody.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, other questions, Peter?
Yeah, just a point of information, really. The fellowship program was started by Pat Andriol a while ago. She was a big fan of it, but perhaps it's changed or hasn't. The requirements, it sounds like, are a lot more. She thought it was very cost effective at the time, but that was perhaps 10 years ago. So
It could have been longer than that, Peter.
yeah, I remember when she started it. She thought it was a great program. But I don't think I followed up with her, more than 2 years into the inception. So that's how it started. Perhaps it's the reporting requirements and the paperwork, et cetera, have made the cost more than the benefit.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it would cost years ago, but where it is right now, for us to take a look at some of the costs for us, I think we have to.
Yes.
We have to weigh these, I think.
Okay. Other questions? Comments, other questions from the, Victor?
Just to be clear, Peter, this year, you're just paying half of what they used to charge, but you're getting the same service, right?
Right. So I'm getting the two fellows for half price.
All right, so that's not an issue.
It's not an issue now. And next year, we'll deal with that, and we're putting some things in place now to deal with what might happen next year.
Got it. Thank you.
And so the only capital request that you might have is for a generator.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I figured Charlie wanted me to bring that up, so.
Yeah. Well,
And getting his parking lot paved.
and my parking lot paved too.
Oh,
so
yeah, I don't see that here,
Yeah,
but
that's
I
under
guess.
public,
Auto-
we buried it under public works.
I have a lot of holes in there.
Somebody else was doing your begging, your.
Well, the interesting thing is that we lost power again yesterday for a few hours, and now remember, everything's electronic. All of our records and the schedules and appointments are all done electronically now. So as soon as we lose power, I have people sitting around kind of scratching their head, and we can't access the clients and stuff.
No
so.
hard copies?
Hard copies?
Yeah.
No, we got to run them off on the computer. So no, everything's done electronically now, Charlie.
And you have to know you're going to lose power ahead of time, so you can print the hard copies.
Okay, any other questions or from the Human Services Department? I think you're all set, Peter.
Thank you.
Okay, next is elections on page 21. Okay, welcome, Dan and Marion. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
We're preparing for election year.
Yes.
We know, we're fairly sure that there will be 2 primaries in August
Okay.
with all the candidates that are running or trying to run to get the delegation. And so we've upped our election workers' expense because of the 2 primaries and also the November election. So that is, an increase over last year. And you'll see an increase also in the moving and storage of the voting machines went up a little bit. We have a new company that the other company went out of business, and we're figuring on the primary. And then the other increases in the other supplies, which are going to be the ballots. And Atkins had sent us a list to kind of figure by, but again, we don't know how many ballots we'll be getting, but I guess for the primary, we're going to need the two different ones for the Republicans and the Democrats if there's two primaries, and also the 7 districts. And so that's where that is, along with the November election. So we hope we figured it out and don't have to come back to you.
Okay, questions on the request for $165,592? Charlie?
Yes.
Marion, yesterday I got a list of candidates for governor in the state of Connecticut. There were 26 on my list.
Well, they've been saying on TV that there was 25, so somebody must have come up with it. Yep, but,
Tomorrow there'll be 27.
right. So, you know, and
You want to run?
so but being an open seat, we figured that there would be, you know, 2 primaries in August for both sides.
There are primaries all over the place. Rosa Dolores is going to be primaried, I believe. There's several on the other offices in the state, attorney general, things of that sort. So we anticipate that we will have a robust ballot, both sides.
Robust.
Robust, yeah.
Questions from Marion or Dan? Questions from RTM members? Dennis?
Marion, what's the huge increase in election workers?
Because the primary in August, you'll have to have, it'll be run as 2 separate primaries, but it's on the same day.
And you have to put additional workers on for that?
We have to have that separated out, but you have to figure for both. Sometimes we don't have 2, sometimes we don't even have a primary.
That's a huge increase. And then explain to me about that moving and storage again?
Moving and storage is moving all the equipment, and we've had that before, where we have to move all the equipment to the polls. The election material, the voting machines, the ballots, the movers come and they move it.
Public Works or anybody else can't do
Years
that?
ago, Public Works did it, but then it was, some of this stuff was very heavy. The old machines were very heavy, and now even these new cabinets that we have to store everything in is very heavy. So we've been having a moving company now for quite a few years.
Frank?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would you give me the total number of workers for those 2 primaries plus the hourly rate that they're going to be paid by the taxpayers, please?
We don't necessarily have it by an hourly rate. It's just a flat rate that they get.
Okay, and so how much is that, please?
Well, what we're trying to do here is cover both of those primaries and that election. Hopefully,
Right, I understand.
hopefully we won't have to use it all.
No, I understand that, but, as a taxpayer in the 1st district, I'm asking how much are they going to be paid? You're asking for an extra $22,000. Right, there's 2 primaries. I understand that. I just want to know the fact. How much is each one being paid? Is it hourly or is it by the day? If so, what's the rate? Please.
It's by the day, but it's also by the training that we have to do extra. They have to come in for the training. So, and I didn't bring that with me. Sorry.
Frank,
But I can get it.
they could supply that to us and we can get that distributed to you folks.
Thank you.
Okay? Other questions? I think we're all set.
Okay, thank you.
Next up is East Shore Health on page 43. Welcome, Michael. So We didn't get a whole lot of detail.
No, there's no memo in there this year.
There's no memo, so you're asking for 236,352 plus the 15,000 for repairs and maintenance. But I'll let you make your presentation.
Okay. You should have gotten
Did I see
one
that?
page to, no.
No, it didn't go in the book.
Oh,
So it's top secret.
oh, okay. Well, I will get it to you.
Okay.
But let me go through it and I will follow up. Very similar to past budgets. The East Shore District Health Department is a regional health district, and so our funding comes from several sources. It comes from town per capita, which is set this year at $8.29. It's based on population. The population of Branford is 28,028. Compared to last year, it went down 117 people. And basically, it's simple math, and when you look at the per capita based on the population, that figure comes out to $232,352. Another item is the mosquito control budget, which is flatlined from last year, and I believe the year before. And that is a contract that the East Shore District Health Department manages, but that money comes directly from the town of Branford and the contractors paid, and that's the arrangements we have with all our member towns.
That's the 15,590?
Yes, 15,590.
Got it.
And in addition, this year, we're asking each of the member towns of the pump-out boat service for $3,000. So there are 5 towns, Branford being one of them, and the total from all the towns is $15,000 to support the purchase of a new pump-out boat. So compared to last year's budget to this year's budget, the increase is $10,755, making the grand total $250,942.
So the 10,755 includes 3,000 capital basically for the pump out boat?
3,000, yes it does.
3,000.
Correct.
Where's that boat housed?
It's housed in the town of Branford. In fact, there are two pump out boats. One of them is owned by the town, the other one is owned by a contractor, and both are housed at Bruce and Johnson's Marina.
Okay, I know we don't have detail on this budget, but a question for Michael?
Hey, Michael, where does the $8.29 per capita come from? What's the source of it?
That source, what we do is when we look at our budget, everything is for the health district in general is based on population. So we set a fee per capita. So for every member of the town of Branford, the fee is set at $8.29 times the population, which this year is 28,028.
No, I get that, but how did you get to $8.29?
Oh, so there was an increase from the year before.
So just to back up, do you take your total expenditures estimated minus revenues and then divide it by the total population of the multiple towns?
So yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
yes.
they take the total budget that they expend minus whatever revenues, comes to a net number, just like we do with our grand list. They divide it by the total population of all the towns who service.
5 towns?
So for the pump-up boat service is 5 towns, but the general member towns of the regional health district are 3 towns.
3 towns.
3 towns, okay.
And then that totals 839 times our population is our share.
Yeah, and each town pays the same per capita.
Right.
I have one more question, and
Yes.
it's off the subject. But do you do testing for for Legionnaire?
So what we do is we use the State Department of Public Health Laboratory. If necessary, we can send samples there.
Okay, but you don't do it here
We-
at Branford, you send it on?
We only do it if there was an outbreak. Typically, anyone who has cooling towers would be required to do those tests on their own. That's just part of the general
Have we had an
maintenance.
outbreak here in Branford?
To my knowledge, we've had no outbreaks here. While we get cases now and then, typically they're traced back to other communities.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bob?
Yeah, just a question on the pump-out service. Where is that disposed?
At the Branford wastewater treatment plant.
Okay, so
We also have another a station that we pump out in Long Wharf in New Haven.
Okay. So do we get, how do you decide where it's going?
I would say the lion's share, because the boats are stationed and most of the marinas are around Branford Harbor. Most of the sewage gets pumped out at the Branford wastewater treatment plant. But we do service the towns of West Haven and New Haven, and so when the boats are in that area, they would use that station.
So it's a revenue generator for us in the
So that is a in-kind service. So how the pump-out boat service works is this funded at 75% by the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. The other 25% is local match or real dollars. We've been very lucky in the last 10 years to get most of actually all our money from in-kind services. So my time is in kind. Some of my staff time is in kind. The wastewater treatment plant allows us to pump out the waste there free of charge. Bruce and Johnson's Marina gives us a slip, 2 slips for free. So there's a series, and each individual town also does some in-kind services with their directors of health and personnel. So it's a combination of different sources to make that 25% match. And with the purchase of the new solar electric pump-out boat, it's a $200,000 boat. We got a $150,000 grant. The other $50,000 is real dollars that are coming from a series of grants that we wrote. We got some fundraising for the balance, and then each town we're asking for $3,000, which would be $15,000 towards that $50,000.
And do you know what the yearly gallonage is? Disposal?
It ranges from about 22,000 to 25,000 gallons per year, or I say per season, boating season.
Thank you. Any other questions? You're all set, Bob? Questions from RTM members or general public with regards to East Shore Health? Frank, you got a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We, in the book every year, we usually see a line item to control the insects, but for some reason, I mean, what's the story with that for this coming year? Is that gonna be done?
Frank, the mosquito control is actually purchase services, repair and maintenance. I'm not sure why. That's one of Catherine's favorite accounts. But that's where it is.
Just allocate for that, please.
Pardon?
What's the amount allocated for mosquito control?
15,000.
The whole thing is, I thought the 3,000 was for the new boat.
15,590, Frank.
The whole thing is for the mosquito control, sir?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. It's just got that different label on it.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, Michael, thank you.
Thank you. Just as a matter of clarity, I'm going to get the reports to you. Do I send them to?
Send them to Lisa.
Send them to Lisa,
Catherine.
Catherine? Okay.
They'll
All right.
shoot them out to us.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is information technology, page 28. Welcome, Debbie.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, how are you?
Okay. All right, so This year's budget, we have an increase of slightly over $31,000. And the main increases can be seen in hardware and technology. We have 3 projects that are causing it. On page 28.5, you'll see under the detail for hardware, we need to upgrade the secure Wi-Fi over at the counseling center. We need to upgrade the CCTV, the security cameras in Town Hall, which include the system which is very antiquated in the town clerk's office. And then underneath that, under technology acquisitions, we need to replace the multifunction copier in the assessor department to get ready, of course, for the reval. They right now have a very old copier which actually is used, and it's probably about somewhere around 15 years old. And the police have requested 11 additional Panasonic Toughbooks for their vehicles.
So those are replacement for the police?
Some of them will be replacing 8-year-old laptops. The majority of them will be going in newer vehicles, supervised cars. They are working on 80% of the Toughbook laptops they have in the cars now are anywhere from 6 to 8 years old.
And what version of Windows are you at now?
Well, it varies. It depends. For some departments, they have to stay on Windows 7, unfortunately, because they have customized software, and we cannot upgrade. Overall, anybody in Town Hall or any of the remote locations, when they get a newer PC, they get Windows 10.
And servers are at what level?
Again, it depends on the softwares that are running. Most of them are Server 2012.
Or above?
Or above, yeah.
And another question, what's your vision of any type of cloud-based services?
Well, right now I am speaking with vendors. I mean, there's 2 ways of looking at it. We have cloud services as a service for software when we speak about moving with providers and having our whole database, such as the financial system, in the cloud. That's one thing. That is another discussion for another day due to the cost involved. But in terms of disaster recovery and backup, actually, we are using cloud technology now, and I am moving July 1st our whole disaster recovery. The way we are doing it, the procedure, we will have a local backup here in town. In case there's disaster, we have a local backup in the cloud off-site, which is usually somewhere in Virginia or Utah or Nevada. And then on top of it now, we are moving to what's called DRAS, which is Disaster Recovery as a Service, where if, let's say, for instance, we have a horrific disaster here and the water comes up so high that we lose all the servers in Town Hall and at the police, where our secondary server setup is, we would be able to bring up our 8 main servers, meaning our financial system to pay people, our email, our SQL server, in a cloud environment off-site, be that in Utah, Los Angeles, wherever it is set up. So that's where we are with the cloud technology right now.
Thank you. I just figured I'd give you questions. Questions from the board on the IT budget? Bob?
Just, again, one comment.
Sure.
As I've gone through a lot of the departments, I see that their disaster recovery plans don't seem to be all in one. And so I'm wondering if you're overlooking at this point all those departments, or looking over those departments, I should say, make sure that you know exactly what's going on with, certain contracts that they might be signing, that are out of your purview. But
well, all our software, everything that is utilized to run the town, everything goes through our virtualized network. So it's what's called a SAN, a storage system, and storage array network, and we are backing up everything. So all that data is backed up every night. It's centralized. Either we have redundancy. We have one backup going up in Town Hall, and then our primary is backed up at the police, because that's where they have a generator that's on full-time if ever we lose power.
So if it's an outside vendor who's providing a service to us, are you auditing what's going on with that vendor? Looking at their redundancy?
Yeah, like, for instance, we are moving to the online permitting system called Municity. And that is actually going to be hosted by Amazon Web Services, and all the data will be stored somewhat in the cloud there. But we are also going to have redundancy of that backup of that data since we own it. One copy every week will be downloaded locally, and we will back that up with all our other backup, which is one copy local, one copy in the cloud, our local copy of the cloud, and then the third copy, the main copy, which is worked on nightly or daily, will be at Amazon Web Services, and they have their own backup.
So
So we have triple redundancy for all our systems.
And then if we're bringing a new vendor on board, you're looking at what their recovery looks like.
What we handle at the IT department.
Okay.
We handle it. We make sure that we always have one copy, and we have at a minimum one copy off-site. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Charlie, you got a question?
Listen, you mentioned, though, that there's another site because of the generator at the police department. When the town hall gets their own operating, is that going to change anything?
No. No, because it's better the way that we have two copies of the servers, the way it's split up.
Okay.
No, you want a remote copy when you can.
Yeah. Yeah, the more redundancy we have, the better.
Okay, other questions from the board? Questions from RTM members? Frank?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The actual pay of the people there is on page 77. There's, I see that there's actually 2 engineers and 2 engineers, and they're each getting a 5.1%.
Nope.
That's what the book says. So would you please
Catherine.
explain that?
Catherine, you want to go through
It's,
that?
yeah, you just approved the contract for the town employees union last night. So it's a double jump. This year's budget has a 0% increase in it. So the budget that's being presented tonight is the 2.5% increase for 17-18 and a 2.5% increase for 18-19. So that's why it appears that it's 5%.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, other questions on this budget? Very good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, next up is Human Resources and Labor Relations.
I'll do that, Joe.
Jamie, you're covering that?
Yeah, I'll cover that. Joyce Forty was unable to make it. Regular wages and salaries, 3.1% increase. It's for the 3 positions. It appears slightly higher. There are actually 2.5% increases, but one of those positions is an affiliated position which just had a contract settled this year, right? That one?
Pardon?
That contract was settled, right? The payroll.
Yes, the payroll.
So it's
coordinator,
like-
yes.
And you will see seasonal and part-time help has a position in there of $25,350. That is for a part-time risk manager coordinator position, and I apologize, I will forward you the HR director did write up a job description. I will forward that to you. This is a position that, Joyce Forty, who was a longtime HR director here, felt that it was a position that we ought to have, and I don't believe she ever formally requested it the last few years. However, she thought she would, ask for it this year. I thought it should be included as part of the department. So that is what you see there right now. I will just say this, I did engage a firm to do an HR assessment and make sure we're compliant and do an assessment of the department. I think this will give us some direction of where we should perhaps redo some job descriptions, or if this position could be incorporated in the assistant position. So that has just begun. I just signed the engagement letter. So I did want to make the board aware of that.
Okay.
It's currently happening.
Thanks, Jamie. Questions on the HR budget for request of $289,812, increase of $32,194. Questions from the board? Questions from our TM members? Mr. Sullivan? You get Mike's right over here next to Frank. Green.
Thank you, Chris Sullivan, RTM member 6th District. It's my understanding that the HR director is currently serving on a part-time basis in Town Hall. And so I was wondering if there's any thought about the salary that's in the budget book being prorated, if that position's not going to be a full-time position for this upcoming budget year, if you could discuss how that position's going to be filled moving forward. It just seems like if the person's not working full-time, then the full-time salary might be more money that actually is needed for the position.
Thanks, Chris.
I believe the town has a longstanding practice of fully funding vacant positions. As I mentioned, the intent is to eventually fill that position. However, we are going through this assessment of the department and reviewing job responsibilities and job descriptions. So, coming up this next fiscal year, I don't recommend adjusting that salary. And to be quite honest with you, I believe when we had Joyce Forty retired, she had recommended considering the duties and the responsibilities of the HR director and the broad spectrum of his responsibilities, including risk management, felt that should have been an increased salary as when she departed from here. Actually, it was requested in the budget. Through the budget process, we did lower that position. It's not unique to Branford, who I've actually talked to other towns who are comparable to Branford and were comparable in the salary range that they were providing, and seems like, for what we were asking for that individual, that we were under the market rate for that position. So that's where I think it is prudent to wait until we have this assessment done and have this consulting firm evaluate the HR department before we make any adjustments at this point in time.
All right, thanks, Jamie. Questions, additional questions on the HR budget? Okay, thank you. Next, we'll move on to executive, page 11.
You want to just hit labor relations real quick?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
19, it's 62,500. We're holding that flat.
Yep. Hang on a second. That's page 19.
19.
It's not in on our cheat sheet here. 19. Zero. 62,500, and that's to pay for the labor relations attorney. And so what contracts are up this year?
Well, currently we're in negotiations. We are in current negotiations with police, dispatchers, and supervisors, town hall supervisors. And so those will be ongoing in next year.
Okay. Thanks, Jamie. Any questions on the labor relations budget? Questions from RTM members or the public? All right, thank you. Move on to the next budget, which is executive, page 11.
So overall, this is a $12,178 increase, equating to a 3.5%. Regular salaries and wages is an increase of 2.4%. That includes one affiliated and one unaffiliated position that is within the budget of the board clerk's 2%, and although it's not, looks percentage-wise like a large increase, there's a $250 increase due to longevity. Consulting services, we did increase by $1,900. And furniture and fixtures, we added that, to ask for $2,000 in that line item. That's not solely for the executive office. It's really for town hall, for the various departments. There's need for a new chair or a new, something over with the desks, the very desks or mats. We would buy that out of that budget. But we felt it was appropriate, rather than having the various departments within town hall to carry that line item, it just flows through the executive budget.
And
then
the Council of Governments?
Yes, so that is just an increase this year. We feel of $1,300. That's our membership to the COG. Largely we're behind a bit on taking advantage of dollars that are, there's a matching component through the COG that is to access state funds. So they felt, we have a slight increase this year amongst the towns, we can access additional funds for transportation studies and projects.
Okay, so a total request of $359,384, increase of $12,178. Questions from the board? Questions from the RTM members, members of the general public? We're all set, Jamie, thank you. Next is Board of Finance, page 12. Catherine, you're going to cover that?
Yes. There's a small 2% increase for the board clerk. There's an increase in there for the audit services. Jim calculated about a 2% increase. The larger increase for actuarial services, Jim has included an increase for the OPEB evaluation that will need to, or OPEB valuation that will need to be done next year. And the decrease in the advertising, printing, and binding, I've noticed that more RTM members are taking their budgets electronically, so I don't have to print as many budget books now that we have to outsource the printing as opposed to printing them at the Board of Education. So we just did a small decrease for that, to account for that.
So it's a total request of $85,603, $3,828 increase. Questions on this budget? Questions from RTM members or anyone else? Okay, thank you. Next is fiscal services, page 13. Catherine?
The regular wages and salaries has increased per union contract. There is a 2.5% increase for the finance director, and the assistant finance director is in there at a 0% increase. As Jamie had said, we're in contract negotiations. There is a 2% increase for part-time elected officials, which is the town treasurer. The larger increase, even though, just as Jamie said, it looks like a large increase, but it's a small dollar amount, is longevity increase for one of the employees in the department. There is a small increase in there for postage, with the rates increasing, we accounted for that, as well as the leased equipment has gone up. Our postage machine, the lease has gone up for that machine.
Okay, total request of $448,442, increase of $8,772, 2% increase overall. Questions from the board on that budget? Questions? Charlie, got a question?
This is a minor thing, but on page 13.1, is the IRS travel rate 54.5 cents per month?
Yes, it is.
I thought it was a little less than that.
It increased January,
Oh, maybe that's
and we
it.
go calendar year. We don't do a mid-step increase, but we usually do the calendar increase that the IRS
Okay.
publishes.
Okay. Other questions? questions from RTM members? Board, members of the public? Okay, thank you, Catherine. Next is Town Clerk, page 17. Lisa?
My total request is $255,748, and that represents a 2.2 increase overall from current year. On the total personnel, it's $227,373, and that's 3 assistants. They're in the Town Hall Union affiliation, and myself. And the longevity is for 2 of the 3 assistant clerks. And on the non-personnel side, I'm asking for $28,375, and there's no change from current year.
Okay, questions on the operating budget of $255,748? The board members? RTM members, any questions on Town Clerk's budget? Frank?
Thank you, Mr. Mooney. What's the story on the vault? What's the latest on that?
She's going to cover that when we get to the Capitol.
Oh, thank you.
So, any questions on the operating side? Okay, now you can answer Frank's question.
Okay. Before we move on to Frank's question, I just want to make a statement that delivery of documents for recording on the land records is really moving toward what's called e-recording. It's just basically another delivery mechanism for delivering the documents. There is no charge to make this change, and I'm being pressured kind of by COT, our land records provider, to make the change. It's now been a delivery method for 3 years in several towns. I think about 60 towns in Connecticut are now on board with it. So we wanted to have them work out all the bugs to it. But I wanted to just throw that out there that probably within the next 3 months, I'll be chatting with everyone to have the contract reviewed and to just see if there's a consensus that we want to move forward with this. There's 4 providers in the state of Connecticut, and the providers' customers pay the fees for this convenience and delivery system. So I just wanted to throw that out there that you'll probably be hearing about e-recording. If we don't take advantage of this limited time opportunity, COT's typical conversion fee is $1,600, but they're running a promotion with one of the leading providers who is covering that sign-on
So
fee.
you work in conjunction with IT to review what they're offering?
I haven't done that yet, but I have chatted with Debbie about it.
Okay.
So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay, and you'll provide us more information about that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Please, is that going to eliminate the hard copy?
No. We, in essence, have an inbox, a mailbox of documents being e-delivered to us. We double-check the fees, make sure that they are remitting the proper dollars, which, by the way, the provider guarantees that money is in our account the next day. If there's some issue with collecting those funds, it's not our issue. It becomes the issue of the provider. They guarantee that the money is provided to us the next day. We would then print those scanned documents, and those go into our land record books in the vault,
Oh, I see, okay.
as well as our online availability.
So maybe when you're ready, maybe at one of the meetings, you can come and make a presentation as to what your current process is and where you think you're headed.
Sure. In essence, it just cuts down how many times FedEx and UPS would come in with overnight packages, pretty much. Okay. To answer Frank's question, so GGB has a sinking fund that Otto is not proposing to fund in fiscal 19. In checking with Catherine, the current balance on the account is $112,000. The challenge over the years has been what is exactly the scope of the project to remove 5 windows from the vault that have been there illegally since 1965. So I contacted on my own a local construction company in town. He came and assessed the vault. I made up a book of fire regulations, Connecticut State Library regulations on what a vault, standard vault should be. And he came up with a ballpark of $35,135. So we're well within the $112,000 that we have in the account. Now, mind you, the other part of the project would be assessing whether HVAC and other mechanicals are properly regulated for the vault. So the $35,135 is to infill the existing windows from the exterior, leaving the gates on the windows to protect the interior records and room. And they would infill the existing windows with fire-rated concrete masonry units with rebar, and that's about as much as I know about construction. They did say that there could be another $10,000 in $5,000 for the possible need of a registered architect or engineer that the state might require, and also a contingency for possible lead paint abatement of the window frames.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so you anticipate doing something in the next before the end of the next fiscal year in regards to the vault?
That would be nice.
That's up to the boss?
Yeah, I haven't talked to Jamie at length about it.
As Lisa mentioned, she did just secure a quote. She's been gathering the information of what is required to have, because that seems to be the outstanding question. What is the full scope to have a code-compliant vault? And it's been, I guess, even, talking to Otto, he's, inquired for a couple architects, and they're still trying to get back to him on that. So, I think as that was just the infill, as Lisa mentioned. There's other things that would need to be considered, the HVAC, and most importantly, probably the fire suppression system that's currently in there.
Right.
We anticipate we would have to go to one of those ones that just, essentially suck the air out of the room.
Right.
So we're gonna, I had a conversation today with Otto. I didn't, and I will follow up, Lisa, the three of us, and see what the priority is and what the initial approach should be.
Okay. Questions about the vault? You're all set, Lisa?
Yes.
Any other questions from the town clerk at this time, from RTM members or anyone else in the room? Okay, very good. Next, we'll move on to legislative, page 10.
The total request is $18,140. Total personnel is $9840, which is two clerks and a moderator with a 2% increase, which is determined by the selectmen. Correct? And the non-personnel side of $8,300 is flat, the same as the current year.
Okay, questions on this budget of $18,140? From the board, questions from RTM members? Frank, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to ask you, I see that we do have again this year for the RTM, $250. That's for conference fees and things like that?
Yes, that is for the, that's for professional development, and usually we have at least a few attendees for the CCM,
Yeah, the CCM
annual conference.
Hartford, yeah, that's good. Thank you very much.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions on this budget? Okay, thanks, Lisa. Next, we'll move
Thank you.
on to the RTM Rules and Ordinance Committee budgets. We've got Conservation and Environment, page 50. And this is Karen. How are you? Good, thanks. Total request of $4,464.
Right. It's a pretty significant decrease, but I think given our budget and our last few years, it'll be fine. We have the town clerk, or the budget for the clerk, recording fees. We've got $2,000 allotted for purchase services, repairs, and maintenance, which is going to go for some ground maintenance, and normally we do this work in the spring. $750 to grounds maintenance. Actually, the other one that I mentioned was purchase services, repairs, and maintenance. And then we have another budget, or another allotment of funds called grounds maintenance. We have other supplies marked for $435, which will, our library books and school donation books will come out of that fund, as well as our website maintenance. And then we have a small allotment of money towards $400 for memberships and conferences in the fall. We usually go to the Cacuic conference, and depending on who goes, that's done
Thanks,
before.
Karen. Questions for this budget? Board members, questions from the RTM? Peter has a question.
Most of our boards that have paid clerks are regulatory boards like inland wetlands and planning and zoning, where you really have to be careful that everything's recorded. Most of our volunteer boards, such as the forestry board and tree board, whatever, green, et cetera, they don't have compensated clerks. So I'm interested in the rationale for a compensated clerk for this commission, because you're kind of an anomaly,
Yeah.
unless.
Yeah, no, I understand. I've been on the commission for probably close to 20 years, and there's always been a board clerk. So I think it's just, that was the standard.
Okay. Other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to ask again, this has already been discussed, but the answer, I wasn't clear on the answer. What's the fee for the grounds maintenance? What grounds do you maintain?
Whenever grounds maintenance, we have $2,000 allotted, which is a decrease. Last year, what we did was, there's a little park on Monterey Street. We had planted some trees as memorial trees, and we planted a tree on the green for Art Howe in his memory.
Where's the park
On South Monterey Street?
Just by the
right,
bridge?
just as you go underneath the bridge.
Oh, the bridge there. On
Yep,
the right or on the
there's
left?
Both.
Both sides?
Yeah, so we planted some dogwood trees on the left side as you're going towards Indian Neck, or, yeah. So
Yeah,
we
okay.
planted some trees there. Now, we haven't done the work there yet because it's not conducive to do it right now in the wintertime, but we've got some invasive trees that would like to remove, and some dead wood that's in there we'd like to get out. So, and we also, a few years ago, well, actually, there's a little area that the town maintains on the top of Old Twin Orchard Road. So we went in there one year and cleaned that up. It was really overgrown and not maintained. So if we notice areas, we'll maintain them. And try to spruce them up a little bit.
Okay, so, all right, so at this point, page 50 there, what you have is actually two figures. There's a figure of $750, that's for the grounds maintenance, and then
Well-
there's also one for $2,000. What's the $2,000?
Yeah,
For purchase service?
It's a little bit ambiguous there, but the 2,000 will go towards the major repairs or the maintenance of the grounds. That's actually the landscaping that we've done in the past. And then the maintenance, that would typically go towards if we do an invasive project where we remove invasives from, we used to have a supply pond party and we'd clean up invasive species out of that.
Thank you.
Okay. Catherine, you want to add anything? You're all set?
In the past too, you have used that purchase service maintenance account for your website development.
Yes.
So that
Yes.
is part of that money is built in there, Frank.
Right, and we're at the point now where we've got web services, but most of the maintenance will be done by the commission members.
Okay. Other questions on this budget of $4,464? Okay, all set?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is building inspection and enforcement. Page 35. Welcome, Tony.
Good evening, everyone. We're here tonight with an overall increase of 4.3, which represents $182,445. Just two line items have been increased. One is the salaries per the union contract that's been negotiated to date so far. And the second increase is for consulting services, which are asking for an additional $3,960 to maintain our inspection schedule. We have a big increase in infrastructure with our large projects that are town projects that are going to require quite a bit of an inspection schedule from us. And we're a little bit worried that it's going to take away from our regular demand of what we normally do in a year.
Sure. And you're estimating a increase in revenue?
Yes. The numbers to date, we're up about 4% from last year's total where we were this time last year. Applying that 4%, if we maintain that through the rest of the year, that puts us at $524,000 as a estimated revenue. I shot a little bit on the conservative side, as Jim always likes to do, and I estimated at $510,000.
You're at 525 for next year, though.
Yes. From everything that we see in the pipeline and what I'm reading in construction journals and things like that, we can expect an increase of anywhere from like 2.5 to 2.7 overall.
Okay. Thanks, Tony. Questions on the budget of $182,445 from Tony, or questions from RTM members on this budget or members of the general public? All right, Tony, I think you're all set.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
Good night. Next is planning and zoning, page 22. And Catherine's going to cover that for us. P&Z has got a meeting tonight, so they're not able to join us.
The two increases are for personnel services. The first increase is for the regular wages and salaries, that's contractual obligations. There is no increase shown for the town planner because his contract is under negotiations. And then there is a 2% increase for the board clerks as per the first selectman's directive. But all the other accounts remained at a flat amount.
Okay, and you're expecting revenues of $21,500?
Yes.
No capital?
No, he has no capital.
Questions on this budget of $304,215? Board members? RTM, any questions on this budget? Or members of the public? Okay, all set. Next is inland wetlands, page 25. Welcome, Diane. How are you?
Good, Chairman couldn't attend to.
Okay.
We have two increases, $250 in longevity, that's for me, and then an increase for my assistant, per the union agreement.
So it's a total request of $127,086, increase of $1,571. Anticipated revenue of $15,000.
That's kind of a guess.
Okay.
It's hard to tell.
Okay, because you had actuals of 14,286, and I don't know if you're going to make the 30,000 for this year. Probably not.
I'm sorry, what?
You have a $30,000 estimate for the current budget year.
We had some large applications.
Okay.
They've taken in 25,000 to date. A
25,000
little over
a day?
25,000 to date.
Okay. But next year, you're anticipating that actually 15 is a more conservative
I think
number.
that's better to anticipate that, because normally we don't get a large amount unless we have maybe one or two very large applications, and I don't know if we'll have that or not.
Okay. Questions from the board on the operating budget of $127,86? Questions from RTM members, members of the public? All right, Diane, thanks for coming. You're all set. Next is economic development. Page 24. Welcome, Perry and Terry. Evening, everyone. Evening. How are you?
So, last year we came to you and we asked for an increase, and this year we're coming to you and asking for a decrease. And that is because we moved forward with our website, and that was the larger expenditure of last year. So if you notice on note 1, it says minus $5,300, and that's the difference between getting the website started and then what we anticipate the annual maintenance and upgrades throughout the year would be. I will say, if you look at note 1, there was a typo at the bottom. It says a commission request 2,200, should be at not 1,200. So that would be just a note of interest there. And the website has been progressing. Quick timeline, we went from July through September, where we actually developed the RFP. Posted the RFP in October through November. Proposals were submitted November through December. And we got bids from all over the country. 155,000 was the highest one, but we had 9 or 10 that were within budget. So we did our due diligence. We ended up selecting Cirque, and that has, we had our kickoff meeting last February 21st. And now they have set up a schedule, and over the next maybe 12, 13 weeks, certainly by the end of May, we hope to have the website launched and being very, I hope, profitable for the town of Branford. Beyond that, I just see if there's any questions that you would have, anything that is of there, but we are looking for $15,185 in comparison to $18,485 last year, a drop of $3,300.
Okay, questions from the board on this budget? Charlie?
Hey, Kurt, I'm a little confused, so you gotta help me here.
Okay.
On 24.1, on the website, under request, it says $2,200, on the current $7,500, and it says C note 1, and the commission request $1,200, so I can't follow.
No, that was a typo. That's what I had mentioned earlier, that was a typo in there.
Which
It was-
is the
It's
typo?
2,200. The typo is in the commission request.
Yeah, that should be what?
It should be 2,200. It should be the same as what it is on the request up above.
okay.
on
So it's
the website.
7,500 minus the 5,300 equals
Okay, okay.
2,200, and that's what they're asking for.
Correct.
Sorry. I didn't pick
Guilty.
that up. Okay.
Yeah.
Terry did it, okay. Other questions? So programmatically, you run the website and you do other various activities?
We will be running, the website is not up and running yet, but by the end of May, we hope to have that, we should have that based on our schedule. We've been kept pretty much to the schedule all along, so that is working. But that will be promoting the town, not only just the properties, but different things about the town and so on.
Victor?
Which trade show do you go to, Perry?
I don't go, Terry goes to the trade shows. And
There are several, Victor, and most of them actually we don't go. We go through one of our regional partners. So Rex Development out of New Haven, they go to Hanover Messe. It's the International Manufacturing Show in Germany each year. So we contribute to that. But unless you want to approve the airfare and hotel for me to go to Hanover, I'd like to go back. So there's that one. There's an International Bio Expo each year. Last year was in San Diego. We did that through CURE, the Biotech Association in the state. Another one that's come up, it's new, is again through Rex, is the Medical Manufacturing Expo. It's in the Javits Center in New York. So that's for me, that's easily a day trip down. But to be there, to be at the booth, to be able to walk the aisles. So and you see the focus is on manufacturing and biotech.
And we actually have a good rapport with Rex, and they really like doing business with our town, and they like the way we're set up and everything. So they really promote the town when they have the trade shows.
Great. And the CCIM is the realty group?
Connecticut Commercial.
It's the state
commercial real
chapter
estate.
of the commercial brokers.
Commercial brokers. And what's the activity with them?
So they have one or two activities here in town. They'll have one or two activities here in town. There's one scheduled, I think, for June at the brewery, Town Hall East, if you want to.
Yeah, they love going there.
But it's an event where all the commercial brokers from the state will attend, and it's an opportunity to showcase the town. In addition to that, by being one of their partners, we get exposure through the events they have throughout the year. So we're on their website, we have materials at their events. It's a big bang for the buck.
And how do you interact with the local commercial realtors or brokers?
It just so happens a number of the officers in CCIM are from ORNL and a few other places, so we interact with them very closely. We know them well, they know us well.
And we've had meetings with them asking about the pros and the cons of them selling the town when there's property here in town or when somebody wants to locate somewhere. What works for them, and that's what we push. So we've had interviews with them on that.
Okay, thanks. Other questions? Questions from RTM members on the budget of request of $15,185? We have a RTM member. Yes, ma'am.
I saw the RFP for the website. Now, this is a separate website that is just for promotional purposes.
It's a website that's for the Economic Development Commission.
Specifically.
Specific.
So I saw the RFP and I was surprised at how much you wanted integrated into what we've already got, some systems that we've already got here, and I thought that the price that you were paying was quite low, but you found someone?
Actually, there were a few that that, you know.
There were
did-
nine or 10 proposals that were under budget.
Are they local or are they out of country?
Well, CERC is a Connecticut-based, and they actually do the Connecticut Economic and Connecticut Economic Resource Center is what they're called, but they actually have Enfield, Middletown, the Connecticut Department of Economic Development.
Oh, so that's who you chose.
So yeah, so that helped in when, but that wasn't all that came about, but it was local, basically local. And my personal feeling is anything that we put on our website, if CERC is doing it and they're doing these other websites, especially for the state, they're more apt to, if you will, borrow the good things about Branford and incorporate it into the Connecticut website. So that's just a free plus. You know, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Robin. Other questions? All right, all set.
Not quite. One thing I just want to say. I should walk out of here, but no, I'm just going to tell you that we are still anxiously hoping someday to have a shuttle, and we are looking into it, but we're leaving it off of this year's request for budget because we don't have all the facts and figures and numbers yet.
Forgot about the shuttle. That was last year.
That was, yes. Okay.
So you'll be back. All right. Thanks, Perry and Terry. Thank you. Perry and Perry. All right. Next budget is ZBA, Zoning Board of Appeals, page 23. And again, we have Catherine who is presenting this, I believe.
Yes. There's just a small increase for the board clerks. They kept everything else flat.
So it's an increase, budget request of $8,877 and
Revenue of $2,500.
what's that?
They
Revenue,
also,
I'm sorry.
yeah, the revenue estimate is
Revenue of
$2,500.
$2,500. Questions on this budget from the board? Questions from RTM members or members of the public? This budget? Okay, thank you, Catherine. Next, we'll move on to the Water Pollution Control Authority, and we'll go to page 66 for the detail. 66 and 67. We have a transfer in of $600,000 from the general fund and taxation, which is a reduction of $2,547. We have an overall budget of $4,384,295. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hi, guys.
Dan and
Or last but not least.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's been worth it, so for us, I'm sure it will be.
All right, so overall, the budget changed about 3%, an increase. We had like 5 increases for the budget, and starting with the regular wages and salaries went up because of contractual raises. That shows up as 5%, but of course it's not. It's just the way it's worked out. This was 2.5%. That's going to show up in July. Environmental testing, that went up $10,000. I wanted to do some more process testing at the plant to run the process better, so I increased that by $10,000. We did make a decrease in the utilities, the water, electric, and gas by $70,000. And we're going to hopefully see a decrease because of new energy measures that went in the plant so far in the conversation of the energy reduction measures that they're doing at the plant. They're not finished yet. They still have to put in a blower. They're going to try to change more of the lighting, which hopefully will make it even less. So I decreased that. Purchase services and repairs, I went up $100,000. We've had a few issues this year where the money's gone quick, and I had to take money out of my utilities and switch it over $50,000 to help me out to make it to the end of the year. And so far in that account, I've got about $20,000 left. So if I use it sparingly, and I should be able to make it to the end. There's also some purchases I wanted to make for some of the pump rebuild kits, which can get kind of costly. There's a lot of the bigger pump stations have bigger pumps. I got prices on replacements, replacements are almost 60,000 for one pump at one station, 40,000 at another, and kind of goes on like that. So if I wanted a spare pump at each station, it's going to cost me some bigger money. So another way to go around is to buy rebuild kits, so that if there is a problem, I can get the pump fixed quicker by having the equipment on the shelf. So that's kind of one of the goals I want to try to get to. State fees and testing went up by $2,500. Our permit is due this year. We already applied it to the state. We paid our permit fee, and there's probably a little bit more fees afterwards, but our permit expires in July of this year. So we've already got the paperwork in, it's been posted, we got copies up at the town hall. So everything is kind of running to plan, and when all that goes through. So I just wanted to kind of round it off to 10,000 to make sure that we had money in there in case we get hit with something. It's not late, we're on time with everything, but, the state, they're always kind of looking for their dollar, so. So that went up 2,500. And then also too, we had Catherine put in a new line account, special detail, for $10,000, so that was an increase as well. And there was a place for if we have sewer jobs on the road and I have to order police, it's cheaper for us to order it from the department, and it gives purchasing a place to send the bill, and so that we can have a line item on it. We've done it before, and Catherine's managed to work it, to pay for it, but this way here, it makes it a little bit better, so we know where it's going and where it's coming from. On the capital's gone up. I increased the sewer maintenance, or sewer line and maintenance repair by $30,000. I normally put $20,000 in there a year, but the issues that we've been having this year, I want to put more money aside for relining and any kind of excavations that are not planned.
Okay, so questions on the operating budget before we move to the capital side of it? Tell me again about the special detail.
The special detail is, well, like Public Works has, if you see a policeman at the construction site and they're waving the traffic, and if the town asks for it, then the town gets a special rate. Like if I call up and ask it to come on my sewer job to protect my guys and to take traffic, we have to pay the police department. So there was nothing in my budget to account for that.
It's just like special detail for the police department. Only we're the client to the police department.
Right, but why is it personnel?
Do you remember a couple years ago when, because the police department has paid their officers, the reason it goes into special detail in the police department is because usually it's a contractor billing the town. But in this case, the overtime gets paid through payroll. So I need to charge a salary type of overtime account for that.
This is direct, this is an internal charge.
Exactly. A couple of years ago, the Public Works
Okay.
Department wanted to split it out so you knew how much was Public Works overtime versus police overtime on jobs.
Okay, I got it. Thanks, thanks, Bob. Charlie, got a question?
Hey, Dan, would you go over the 50,000 increase in purchase services again?
Okay, well, I had to halfway, a couple of months ago, I went to WPCA and I asked for a transfer of money from into my purchase services because I was running out, and I wouldn't have made it until July. So I had, I guess in my world, I only have to go to these guys to ask for a transfer among accounts. So my utilities had the extra money in there, so I took 50,000 out of that, and we put it into the purchase services to get me over the hump until July. So this year I'm increasing it 100,000, or for next year I'm increasing it 100,000, so that I have enough money in there to take care of those extra purchases that I want to get.
Except what were the extra, or the purchase services that needed the 50,000 more?
He was talking about the pumps.
Yeah.
The pump supplies.
Everything, a lot of stuff comes out of that. That's my
That was an example.
repairs of pumps, big pumps, little pumps. equipment to run the jobs.
I mean, so it looks like it's going to be an ongoing yearly cost.
Well, no, I think hopefully I can keep it down unless I have a good reason to increase it. But basically I haven't really increased it that much this year. I wanted to get some bigger items, like a seal kit for one of the pumps at Central Pump Station. It's probably about $8,000. And when that plant was built, they gave us 3 repair kits. So all those pumps have been rebuilt already, and that's nice. I got seals, I got stuff, but it still cost me like $7,000 to $8,000 to rebuild that pump. So that comes out of that account as well. So I had the repair kit sitting on the shelf. So I said, okay, I need this rebuilt. Here you go. We have this in store. Fix it. So now I'm all out of those because I've got them all rebuilt at Damascus, got them all rebuilt at Central. Those are the biggest ones. But I want to have one repair kit.
Yeah, reserve.
Yeah, so I can do it again.
Okay.
Charlie, it was an internal transfer, right, from the line item, but they also had some emergency repairs that they had to do, which they
Okay.
took out of their line item.
Thanks. You want to touch on the capital?
Yeah, on the capital. Okay, on 67.5. The items down at the bottom, the miscellaneous improvements and blowers and secondary, all this stuff has been approved from the sewer reserve fund back in 15, 16, I think it was. And so now that's in the queue now is 2018-19. The generator transfer switch program is ongoing. That's 50,000. And we just put in, we got one generator running at Victor Hill, which is a brand new Cummings, that we did in-house. So I came before the Board of Selectmen, I got permission to buy 2 natural gas generators. So we purchased them. They came in 2 months ago. We just got one installed, and we're going to install the other one at Milo. So the money that I put in there comes out of that account. So we're saving money kind of doing, we got a new electrician. He's a master electrician, so he can take out the permits. So the jobs are done correctly, and we save some money by doing them in-house. Although it does take a little bit longer because he is busy fixing other things as well. The sewer line manhole repairs, again, I increased that. It was 20,000, but I figure with just the system is getting older. The first pump station that went in Branford is on Bradley Ave, built in 1962. We've put in, it's been rebuilt. It's had 3 Homa pumps in there, and they didn't start out with original Homas. I just put a new control panel in it to run 3 pumps. But it's old and it needs work. It's a lot of the sewer lines in Branford are from 1962. A lot of them are that vitrified clay, which is the asbestos-coated cement. They're subject to H2S erosion, which usually eats out the top of the pipe. When it caves in, we have the issue that we did at Alps Road, which costs money, and you kind of have to do it quick because people can't use the sewer. And I've had to bypass pumping from Bourbon for over 24 hours until the problem could get fixed. So the extra monies that I'm putting in there, hopefully I'm going to build up a little kitty. And I mean, there is money in there now, but if I have to reline a pipe or something happens, I've got money in there ready to go. So that's why I kind of increased it for the 5 years out. The apparatus fund appropriation, we started that last year. It's been putting in 150,000 where I can take my like we bought the new pump out truck like 2 years ago, and I did that as a separate capital item, but this we kind of figured for the apparatus fund I could take other equipment because I want to be going for a jetter at some point, which is bigger money. It's probably about 200 to 300,000 for that piece of equipment. So having a spot again with a sinking fund in there, it makes it a little bit easier because the money's already kind of appropriated. I can go in there and get it. I mean, I still have to go out to bid for it, the whole bit, but the money's allocated in the budget for it. And the sewer reserve fund, that's the contribution in, I haven't changed that, that's $225,000, and that's stays for the 5 years out. And what's coming up in the bottom on the $250,000 for miscellaneous improvements, and that's for some of the items from the capital plan that was drawn up a couple of years ago, and that would include a hypo building, blowers. Blowers are the next one down, and some more miscellaneous repairs at the plant. So, and that's, and again, if that's already been approved, so now it's kind of up to me to get the ball rolling on on that portion, the blowers and so on, which would have to kind of go from that, maybe an outside engineer to look at it and to get some proposals together.
Okay. And to those sort of the current year expectations of $1,291,000 total, total capital expenditures. And questions on the capital expenditures?
Can I
Catherine?
just clarify something?
Sure.
So on the bottom portion of that, the miscellaneous improvements and the blowers and secondaries, a couple years ago, this board approved a plan, a 5-year, for the most part, capital plan for improvements down at the treatment plant. And they approved the funding to go from the fund balance of the sewer utility fund over to the sewer reserve fund to pay for those improvements. But each year, you have to approve the actual projects to get approved. That's why you see them here. You'll see them each year until they move on out.
Okay. And what's the balance in the fund balance for the reserve?
In the school reserve? As of June 30th of 2017, it was $5,152,328. But that includes the funding for these projects.
That you've got some encumbrances that are in there. Got it. And that would include those ones?
The projects, right. There's a couple that are this year that he has not done yet,
Right.
plus these in the outer years.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Catherine.
You're welcome.
Questions on this capital budget? Questions from RTM members or other folks in the audience? Question on the revenue side. I see that you have, as I mentioned, the taxation portion is small, shows a small reduction. There's a small increase from the fund balance moving forward. And you have a decrease in the nutrient credit and an increase in fees. Do you want to touch on those, Dan?
Yeah, for the $25 in the return check fees, is that what it is?
I'm not worried about that one.
Oh. Okay.
Good try.
All right, well, the increase there in the sewer utility fees, I'm figuring on a 98% collection rate.
Okay.
So hopefully we get it. The nutrient credit, the minus of the 20,000 is the state has stopped funding the nutrient credits. When we first started doing it, the state was funding it. When we did good and we sold our credits, and another plant that did bad bought them, we made good money on it. Since the state is not funding it anymore, it's funded out of just the people that are doing bad and have to buy them. So it was like $5.85 this year around. Next year, if it's the same, we're probably going to get either the same or a little bit less. So I don't really want to go crazy. I've never really been that crazy on going high with it, because you could also go on the other side of it. If we do poorly on getting our nitrogen removed, we'd have to pay into that. But ever since we started doing that, we've made money really well. But now that they've kind of, it's the only person that's got to buy it, is the person that are doing bad, and the state doesn't fund it anymore. There's not as much money made.
When you
in
say a
it.
person, it's another,
It's another treatment
it's
plant.
another treatment plant,
Right.
another municipal treatment plant.
Yeah.
That's right. And with regards to the utility fees, is there a receivable for those?
Yes.
What does that equal?
Can I give you the one as of June 30th, 2017?
Sure.
$172,327.
So that's a cumulative number of $130
Yes,
for people that don't want to pay.
yes.
And so that's not something you can lien for.
No.
So you can't shut off their flow. So,
Non-payment.
are those repeat offenders, or is it
That I don't, we have to ask the tax collector.
tax collector?
Yeah, because they're the ones who takes the payment. They do link. For sewer?
Okay. We got 100.
There's liens for sure.
Is there- This is a lienable fee?
Yes.
It is? Okay.
I would say the higher, the receivable years that are the highest is 2014 up. From before that, there's small receivables still
Right.
on the books.
Right. So I know the assessments are something that can be liened, but these fees, Jamie, are...
I believe they have.
These are
Correct.
they create liens on these? Okay. Just checking.
I think we placed in February a couple hundred liens.
For the fees?
Yes.
Okay.
Some of them, many folks are repeat offenders, and they'll pay after several months after the lien is placed. And some don't realize that the lien gets placed. They find out that it's a lien on against their home, and they pay immediately. So
Okay.
I can't tell you what the ratio is, but some of them are multiple years that are outstanding.
Okay. If there's a real estate lien, then at least it's protected for the 15 years.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, questions on the revenues side, or Victor?
Joe, where do you find that nitrogen, reduction in the nitrogen?
No, and the revenue
It's the
side.
DEP duty and credit.
On the revenue side, it was on page 66. Up top here, 66. Right there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Joe, can I just clarify
Karen?
one thing too?
Sure.
I gave you the fund balance in that sewer reserve fund. It's actually, as of June of 17, it's $4,896,000. I gave you with the current increase of the $225,000 from this
Okay.
year.
So 4.9.
Yeah, 4.9.
Okay, other questions from the board on this budget? Questions from RTM members on any portion of this budget? If not, thank you, folks.
Okay, I'd also like to mention too, we didn't go up on the sewer rate, that's still the same.
Still at $130?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, great. Thanks for doing a good job there, folks. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, so that concludes tonight's presentation, so I'll entertain a motion to recess until Monday, the 19th.
So moved.
Moved and seconded, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
The preceding program was brought to you through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings or other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.